Now we're getting really close and we're almost to the end of our tutorials for timeline controls. The last thing we're going to do is add some keyboard controls, and this will go pretty quick because we already have the structure in our file that we need. Now we do need to learn a little bit about using basic key events first. So you might want to go ahead and check out the lecture, and I want to point out that there are two basic types of events, key down and key up events, and then some other types of key events that we're not going to be using. Now key events of course are used a lot in games and all that kind of stuff, but I do want to point out that just as things are changing right now towards mobile being the next frontier and you don't have buttons, it means that interaction with games, I think it's going to change over the next few years quite a lot. So you'll have to add multiple ways to interact with the game. Anyway, with keyboard events, you've got the two basic events, but they do act very differently. The key down event is a repeating event, and the key up event happens only one time. Now, the best way to see this is an example file, which I'll show you in just a moment. Anyway, you can actually make the key event or the key down event happen only one time. And this you'll remember from the repeating events. If you remove the event listener for the keyboard event right after you've applied it, then it runs only once. But then how do you attach it again afterwards? So of course there are problems. Anyway, the biggest task with finding out how to use keys is finding out the right key codes. And there are two different types of key codes. There we go. We have our character code and then we have our key code. Now I'm going to click in this window and that enables it. And you'll see if I press my spacebar, I'll get both 32 for each of them. Now let me hold down the spacebar and you'll see something that happens. Notice that as I press down the spacebar, it keeps on adding another line here, and that's because this is a repeating event, but it doesn't add a line to this box over here. Another example is pressing a different key. I'm going to press now the, let's see, that is the Q key, and that is character code 113 or key code 81. Why it's a different one? Don't know exactly. Let's try this. Now I'm holding down the shift key when I press, and you'll see my character code is 81 and key code equals 81. So you just do need to be aware that the two codes are slightly different, and depending on whether or not you have your shift key held down or your or not held down, it will change whether your character code and your key code match or not. So in order to use this, we're going to need to go back to our Flash file, and we already have our structure. So let's go back to Flash. Let's find our function where we have our switch here, and I'm going to copy this function and paste it underneath. And this is going to be our key handler. And instead of a mouse event in here, we're going to have a keyboard event. Now, instead of switching the event target.name, we are going to switch the event key code. Now, we could use character code. It wouldn't really matter which one that we want. Now, since we're using key code, let's go back and take a look. And I know that when I press the Q key, the key code is either changing to 81 or looks like it's the same, and the character code changes. So we're going to go with key code because it doesn't change. So I have key code, and the first one here is 81. Now I need to look at my next one. Oops. My W, the key code for that is 87. So in here, I'll have case 87. Now, all I have to do is add my event listener for that. So I'll come up to the top, where I have my event listener for my mouse event. And I'm going to add a key event here instead. And I'm running out of time, but so I'm going to actually make this in the next one because it should be keyboard event. But I'm writing the code wrong. So let's save and go on, and then we'll fix it after.